Steel Ball Run, Part 7 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, one of Hirohiko Araki's greatest and if not the best ever masterpiece that he has ever created. A story that begins from the heart of the Wild West and stretches out and finishes at the highly civilized East Coast of the United States of America. A manga that is so rich in terms of great characters, impactful moments, and so many awesome stands that I must rank in terms of their real life usefulness. Now we're going off with the main character stand, Tusk Act 1. Now, Johnny Joestar's stand. You would think, like all the other previous Joestars, with the introduction of their stands, it would be a badass stand from the get-go. And I wouldn't hold you accountable for that, because we've seen Star Platinum, Super Strength, Super Speed, yada yada yada. You all know the story. Or Giorno Giovanna's Golden Experience, giving life force out of nothing. Or Josuke's Crazy Diamond that reverses any kind of harm that has been done. And on to the later parts, we get to meet Tusk Act 1, a friendly fellow, I should say. Now, before you get offended that I am ripping this guy to shreds, let's look at what he does. Well, he shoots nails, or rather, he allows you to shoot nails like a gun. And don't get me wrong, that could be very useful for self-defense. However, in a real-life situation, first off, it is highly unethical to kill someone with your nails, much less shooting it out of your body and killing them. And second of all, you could just use a gun or a revolver like a normal person. So with its drawbacks and plus sides, we have to meet in the middle, and I guess one below middle should be fine for Tusk Act 1. Now, when we get to Tusk Act 2 though, you would think there has been a major improvement, but no, it's a letdown. The only thing that did improve though is its combat ability. You get better nail guns, and although they now have to regenerate over longer periods of time, you do get better nails. They're more explosive now, but still, it doesn't really seem all too great in real life. And I think you can also use them like a rollerblade and just move on the ground, like Johnny Joestar, who was paralyzed and couldn't walk. So I guess all in all, it is just a bit better than Tusk Act 1 is all I'm saying. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Here we have Tusk Act 3, and you get the ability to have spatial wormholes. Now this is a big improvement, because now Johnny can shoot himself with his own nail guns, but trust me, this is not self-harm. He now has the ability to warp himself inside the spatial wormhole that moves on the ground, and you're traveling inside it. Now that is very neat. It sounds very great. And also now you get aim hacks, because your wormholes are going to automatically shoot against your opponent. All in all, in a real life situation, if you're too lazy to walk in a 10-meter radius and have to rely on spatial wormholes, then you do you, buddy. But I'ma have to say, when we compare a stand like this to most of the other stands, I think it would be unfair to give him like an A tier, and definitely not an S tier. So I'll give him a B tier. Just, it seems like a sweet spot for Tusk Act 3. And we got the main course, of course, Tusk Act 4. Now, where do I even begin with this guy? Just give him a straight S. Simple reason, you get infinite energy out of him. Yes, with the golden ratio and golden spin, Johnny now has achieved infinity, to say. And in the manga, for combat purposes, whenever you shoot someone, well, they're doomed in a nutshell, because they'll be stuck in the same place forever and ever unless you shoot them in the reverse direction. Which, why would you do that if you were planning to do something devious like that in the first place? But we're not talking about combat. We're talking about real life usefulness and just the infinite energy that humanity needs and relies on to survive. Well, I guess that is a more than an ample reason to give him an S tier, and you guys share your opinions about this in the comments below. Up next, we got Cream Starter, and I have to give props to Hot Pants. I did not think highly of this stand until I saw just how versatile the use of this stand was with the way Hot Pants handled it. Now, what this stand does is it shoots off a cream-like substance that melts off anything it comes into contact with. Now, from the get-go, you say this is a lethal weapon, and yes, I do agree. You can shoot off someone's hand and detach it from their body. You can hamper someone's vision or even block their respiratory systems. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about this, but even more so, you can heal people with this. You can push out any sort of poison that is inside of anyone's body, and even more importantly, you can impersonate someone, as seen how Hot Pants helped Lucy out in that very eerie situation. So all in all, I would definitely give this an A tier. It is much deserved, and the only thing I think it stops from an S tier is comparison. Honestly, comparison. And what is this? There's another cream starter in here. I think the one that I picked was the alternative universe one, but they're much less the same. So both of them go to A tier spots. Why not? Next up, we got another super OP stand. I mean, we all know he is an easy S tier. I mean, this is the world alternative universe, and it does everything that the world does, just maybe a bit worse because its time stop is a bit more limited. I think it was capped at 5 seconds, but that is the same amount that Jotaro had to use with Star Platinum, so I guess it's more than enough time if you do not get cocky in your fights. And when we have to get down to what it does, it has time stop, super strength, super speed, super precision. It got all the stuff that you'll need in real life, so go ahead, enjoy life, be a Superman, and just do whatever you want. You don't really have to be too creative with a stand like this. Next up on our list is Chocolate Disco, an interesting stand, and what it does is in a certain vicinity it can control and fly objects. Yes, you can move objects and choose coordinates to where you want to put them, so it will be good for logistics. Well, not for long journeys, but for moving extremely heavy stuff or something like that. I think this would come in very handy. Now, here's the thing. Do I think it deserves an A tier or just a high B tier? It's not as versatile as the stand in A tier, so I believe it does deserve a good spot in B tier. It's not bad. It has one great use, and I think it would be unfair to put him in A with just one sole use. So a B tier should be a fine spot for Chocolate Disco. Next up, oh god, you know how in every part of JoJo's there's just that one stand that you would never want IRL? Well, in part 7 we've got another stand like this. It is called Civil War, and I'm just gonna put this in D tier and explain. Now imagine the guilt of the past that you carry can be thrown down to someone else, and they're going to live that same experience IRL, and it can get gruesome because, well, depending on how bad your consciousness is and how heavy your guilt is, you would do more and more damage. But here's the thing, Johnny Joestar managed to turn the tables, managed to pull a Uno reverse card, and the stand Civil War attack its own host. Now you can get affected by your own stand, and if your consciousness is not clear as day, this stand is going to be very problematic for you. But other than that, there is no real life use to this stand other than torturing people with it. So I'll definitely say out of all of these stands, it really is the only stand that does not have a proper purpose. Maybe we'll see, maybe there will be another stand that will join it, but let's just now put him there all alone. Next up, 20th Century Boy, easy S tier. Here's why. You are now invincible with a stand like this, and I mean in the most literal way possible. The way you put on the suit and squat down, you are invincible against anything. Nothing can harm you. Even suffocation can't harm you because the owner of the stand managed to survive deep down in the ocean, and the only reason that he lost was it was a tricky situation he got himself in. Well, it was a 50-50 situation. If he let go of his stand, he would die because there wasn't enough time for him to get to the surface. But if you don't get yourself into certain sticky situations like that, IRL, this stand would be a lifesaver, and you can even become a hero. Imagine a kid passing by, a car is about to crash into him. You go up to the kid, squat down, and you're the hero of the day. And other than that, in a gang warfare you got caught up in, you can just save yourself by squatting down. I mean, squatting down literally will make you invincible with a stand like this and solve all, well, not all, but most of your problems that you would face in real life. Except for emotional problems, of course, but you'll have to deal with that with yourself. Coming along, we got Tubular Bells, and this for me is a hard stand to rank. Here's why. The stand itself may look like a balloon and you may believe that it is rubber, but you'd be wrong because this is made completely out of metal, and the owner of the stand literally blows into metal, turns them into a plastic-like substance, but it looks like it. And as you can see, he makes balloons out of it. And he can control these things as minions. He can control them in a certain amount of vicinity, and you can make them your own little minions, but they are very, very limited to their use. They're not going to overthrow any governments, or they're not going to make you incredibly rich, but I would still say it's not completely useless or completely hopeless. So I think it deserves a good B tier spot in my opinion. Moving along, we got Tatu, an interesting stand, and here's why. Imagine 11 men all having tattoos and they fuse together all of a sudden. That would make this stand. And in a real life situation, I guess you can get one ticket to a concert, fuse with your bros, and go into one concert with 11 men for the price of one. Now, in a certain situation like that, that does sound very good. And also, you could always gang up on someone, jump someone with your bros whenever you seem all alone, but again, you need 11 people to control a stand like this. So they're not clones of you, they're all living, breathing creatures that have their own consciousness. I guess the major drawback in this is 11 people having to cooperate together, so you're just making up a gang of your own. So I guess how useful would that be? I mean, teamwork makes the dream work, but I gotta say, I don't really feel like this stand deserves such a high spot. Nor do I feel like it is utter dog shit, so to say. But I'll have to say, I am going to give this stand a C tier because it seems like it only has a sole purpose where you're able to go in places with 11 men for the price of, I guess, one, and yeah, not much else about it either. Up next, we got Sugar Mountain, and I'm not sure if I should count this as a proper stand because this did not belong to a human. Rather, it was the tree that gave Gyro and Johnny a hard task complete. All of the riches that they gathered, they had to use and spend them all in a certain time period, or else a bad omen would have soon fell upon them. And apart from this stand giving you hard missions, it does not grant you any benefit, so to speak. So unless you got a grand scheme to outplay the stand in its own game, where I guess the stand should work for you, but in this case you are working for the stand. So all in all, I feel like I'm going to give this a D tier. It's not like it's a stand that you can completely control. In a sort of way, the stand is controlling you, which I believe it's a big no-no in my opinion, especially in the JoJo verse. But do let me know what you think about it. Now we got a fan favorite stand, Catch the Rainbow. Now there's a certain condition that needs to be met in order to properly make use of this stand, and as the name suggests, you need rain. Now I'm going to give this an A tier, and it could have potentially been an S had it not had certain restrictions to it. Now with rain, Catch the Rainbow can travel through unbelievable distances at such high speeds because he can walk over raindrops. Now that already sounds too great, but not only that, but he fuses with the rain itself. He can talk over long distances because of the rain, and since he's very much fused with the rain, at a certain rate it's also very much protected by the rain, because with the raindrops falling through his body, he can also avoid any projectiles. So I believe an A tier spot should be very much deserving for Catch a Rainbow, and had it not had its major restriction, I would have definitely give this an S tier. Now moving along, we got another fan favorite Mandm, a stand much like Killer Queen Bites the Dust. It controls time. More specifically, it rewinds time by 6 seconds. Now 6 seconds might not seem a lot, but it could be very much life-changing. You could save yourself from certain death. You could, whenever you screw up, you can try to do your best by spamming 6 seconds of rewind. Whenever someone gives you a hard question to answer, well, you can always just try your luck until things turn out the right way you want it to. So there's so many ways to go about it, but not much to say, because already I believe with full confidence in my heart that this stand deserves an S tier. Moving on, we got the stand named Wired, and seemingly you can already get the picture with the stand from its name alone. Wired is a stand that from the host's mouth, it creates a wire that latches onto stuff, and you could use it as a hook. Now, in terms of speed, it is very much faster than the human eye, so it really beats a lot of stands in that regard. And in terms of strength, well, it is capable of handling a full-grown sized adult, and it can gently move full-grown horses. But the most important thing about the stand is its portal sort of use. With the owner of the stand, he can look through a water surface, latch the hook down that water, and it will be teleported to wherever he wants to. So this is dimensional warping to a certain state, and with that he can observe his surroundings and check for whatever he wants to, and through this portal he can send anything through it regardless of its size, as we've seen with Johnny Joestar's horse. But the downside is Johnny was also able to make use of this portal as it opens a walkway, so as anyone can make use of this portal, Johnny was able to shoot from it and bamboozle the owner. But we're not talking about combat, of course. So what do I think about this stand? I believe it does not have just a single purpose. It can be used in many different ways, and does seem like a conventional thing to have around, especially that dimensional warping part and sending things through a portal. So I would give this an A tier. It may seem controversial, but do let me know in the comments below if you think this stand deserves a higher spot, or much less should be thrown down to maybe B tier, C, or all the way down to D tier. Up next, we got this stand, and I won't even try to pronounce it and butcher that pronunciation. So the text is right there, you can get the picture yourselves. And with this stand, it's like a Killer Queen 2.0. Whatever it touches, it will turn into a bomb. So in a nutshell, I think this stand has a good potential for mining, and also making roads through mountains and making tunnels for metros and subways. So in a lot of ways, you can make good use out of this stand and make it a financial asset for yourself. So all in all, I would say that this stand does deserve an A tier spot. You could also say it seemingly only has one main centered purpose, but that one thing is more than enough for an A tier spot. Next up, we got Tomb of the Boom, and much like Tatu, you need 3 people to use this stand. From the get-go, I don't think too highly of a stand like this, especially when you have to rely on others to make use of it. But let's not be too judgmental here. What this stand does is it controls iron through the use of magnetism. How? Well, you need to have a certain victim for it to work, and especially a living victim. So when one of the members of the trio comes into contact with this victim, well, they'll turn into a living being of a magnet, and with their magnetism they will channel and attract all iron in the vicinity, any sort of metal that will come and pummel that victim down, and in the process crush and kill them. So it seems more like a torture device rather than being useful IRL, and especially if it was not restricted to living creatures, I believe you could have made good use of it, because magnets are sort of expensive, especially the magnitude of this magnet is so crazy in the manga that you could have actually made good use of it, but having to kill someone in the process is a big no-go. So I would have to say, I believe it deserves a C tier. No. I mean, it does do harm towards others, which could put you in jail for it. So maybe even a D tier because of its inconvenience of murdering someone. So I guess that will just stay there. Up next we got my man Poco Loco stand Heyya. And much to your surprise, this stand does not give you great fortune or does it give you instant luck. No, it just lifts your spirits up. It gives you motivation to do stuff. And hey, if that is more than enough for me to win the Steel Ball Run race, become famous and get rich, why not give it an S tier? Maybe in life we all need just a little bit of encouragement to do and accomplish whatever set in our mind. So in terms of usefulness, I would have to say it does its job perfectly. So Heyya definitely deserves S tier, and it would have been even beyond godly had it actually given you great fortune. I would have put this stand above any else, but even so, just the way it is, it definitely deserves an S tier spot along with all these top tier stands. Now we got In a Silent Way, the stand of Sandman, or should I say Soundman. Now this stand is an Echoes Act 1 version 2, so to speak. It is literally copy paste of Echoes Act 1. And here's why. Echoes Act 1 was able to make sounds become a reality if he wrote that sound on a physical existing surface. And much like it, In a Silent Way does the same. And when he does this and someone else comes into contact with whatever he's wrote, well, the notes become a reality. Like for example, if he's wrote down burning or flames on a stick, the stick will burn down because, well, that is how this stand works. And in real life, I guess you could find multiple ways to manipulate this and go around it. So I would definitely put this up in A tier along with all of these great stands. Now we got the stand of the main antagonist, my man Valentine's stand, my president stand, D4C, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. And who are we kidding? We all know how great this stand is. It's super flexible, super fast, super strong, but on top of it, the cherry on top, this stand can hop in between dimensions. All you need is maybe a flag, maybe a curtain, or whatever you have that looks something similar to that. You just need to stick yourself through something and squish yourself in between something, even maybe a door. And this does not only apply to you, this applies to everything. You can send everything through dimensions. And with this, you create many opportunities for yourself. And there's only one rule though. Only one of the same creature can exist in the one universe. So two of the same creatures cannot coexist. If they ever get to coexist in the same universe, they will attract each other to the point where they collide with one another and make a huge explosion. But of course, the exception being my man Valentine, because his stand does not harm him. And if anything happens to Valentine, well, the bad part is the stand will not die along with you. It will just find another version of you in another timeline and return to your original timeline, because seemingly D4C only exists in the single timeline where exactly the same corpse exists in that same timeline. So all in all, this stand only benefits you and certainly does not benefit most people if they ever try to make use of it. So I have to say, it's just a no-brainer to give this stand an S tier. I'm just going to put this right next to even Tusk Act 4. It is just one of the most useful stands, not only in Steel Ball Run, but just in all of JoJo's series as we've seen. And the upgraded version D4C Love Train, which grants you an additional ability of protection. Yes, within that light, you are protected from everything, any kind of misfortune directed at you, it will be redirected towards somewhere else. Maybe, I don't know, if you were attacked in the US, that misfortune is going to go all the way to somewhere in China. I don't know, that's someone else's problem now. And this additional ability, I believe, it was already a great stand from the get-go. It was already an S tier, and with the additional ability, it's still even more is an S tier stand. Now we got the Chad Mountain Tim stand. Oh, lonesome me. Such a relatable stand name, I have to say. And what this stand does is it grants you extreme levels of flexibility. As within the rope, you can stretch out whole parts of your body and divide it throughout the rope and get through tough and sticky situations. And that does seem very good, but I have to give this, I believe, a B tier spot because it does not seem too conventional. I mean, it does seem conventional, but it does not seem extremely useful like all of these stands who have so much more potential and offer so many more uses than just stretching out your body on a piece of rope. But I would still say I'm not going to chew this stand out. I believe a B tier spot, and this spot should be a sweet spot for Oh Lonesome Me. Now we're down to the last free stand. We're going off with Ticket to Ride. Now this stand, Lucy's stand, is an interesting one. With this stand, Lucy's tears can become razor sharp blades. And although these blades, they will decompose whenever they come into contact with something, but as long as you hit your victim, Lucy's primary ability will pop off, and that is Divine Protection. What that means is you get hacks. You are protected completely by fate itself. Nothing bad will happen to you. Everything in the cosmos will go in a certain way that would eventually be in your favor. So we all know how Lucy made it out of every single phenomenon that happened in the series, and a stand like this was a primary reason why she was able to get out of so many sticky situations. So I believe it is an easy S tier stand, simply because of Divine Protection and meddling with fate itself. Now we got another fan favorite antagonist stand, Scary Monsters, the stand of Diego. Now this stand grants you great abilities exactly like that of a dinosaur. How a dinosaur would have great bite force, how they would be very fast, how they would be able to chew you out like you're nothing, eat you, and many other things. You know, your ability to smell will improve drastically, but your eyesight will be hampered quite a bit. But all in all, I do believe that in a functionist society, yes, this stand won't necessarily be so useful. Imagine you also lose a bit of your consciousness and act exactly like a monster, so you might go off and bite some kid's head off, and you wouldn't want that. Not necessarily that you would want that. At least I believe this wouldn't be too great of a stand to use. So this is going to be controversial, but with all its upsides, I will say that I don't want to be too harsh on this stand, but I am going to give this a C tier. I mean, the only reason I'm not putting this down in D tier because it is a stand that I really like, but let's be real, in a real life situation, this stand would cause you a lot of trouble. This is going to make you a monster that you can't even control yourself with. So yeah, it would be a meddlesome stand to deal with, and you're much better off without it than with it. And lastly, we got Gyro Zeppeli stand, Ball Breaker, our last stand of this tier list, and it is a bit hard to rank this stand. We did not get to see the full potential of this stand. Much like Johnny Joestar, Gyro also managed to get the golden spin, but it was executed poorly. So we unfortunately did not get to see the full potential of this stand. So I'm going to ask you guys what you think this stand could have achieved had Gyro fully achieved golden spin. Well, until then, I'm going to put this right in the middle. You decide if it should go up or go down. But yeah, this was the stand tier list of Steel Ball Run stands in terms of their real life usefulness.